From the very beginning, in talking to the returned POWs, in the very beginning we began to hear some very bad things about John McCain and his activities while he was in the POW camp. As an example, and I'll quote this because it can be checked out, he personally wrote an article in the magazine that wherein he stated that during the time he was in prison, in fact I think it's 5 or 7 days after he was captured, he asked the Vietnamese to take him to the hospital, Vietnamese hospital, and in so doing he promised them he would give them classified military information. They did. He did. They took him to the hospital, questioned him, and he gave highly classified information. The most important of which was he gave the package routes, which were the routes the U.S. Air Force were flying their planes in to bomb North Vietnam. He told in detail the altitude they were flying, the direction, if they made a turn, and how to get into Vietnam. So he also gave them where the targets were of their primary interest, whether it was a railroad, whether it was a bridge, whether it was an ammunition or fuel dump or whatever it was. He gave them what primary targets the United States was interested in. After he gave them that information, then the Vietnamese naturally moved their anti-aircraft defenses into those areas and built them up and strengthened them. They also moved aircraft weapons into the package routes of where the airplanes were flying in or egressing. The result of this, according to the information that came out later on in intelligence, was that the Vietnamese started knocking down our aircraft in greater amounts than they had before. In fact, there was an estimate that we started losing 60% more aircraft and more men than we had previously. This went on for about a month, and it got so bad that they finally called off the bombing of North Vietnam because of the information McCain had given to them. When he returned, there were several of the American prisoners, to include 5 colonels. Colonel Ted Guy was one of them, that wanted to prefer charges against McCain and 2 or 3 other returned POWs, because during the time they were in prison, they were not acting in accordance to the military code. And as a result of these other colonels wanting to prefer charges against them, the secretaries of the services got together and they decided no, they did not want these renegade, my word, renegade, prisoners of war coming home to be charged and court-martialed. McCain, for what he did while he was in captivity, was a traitor, because he gave information to the enemy, classified military information to the enemy, which caused the death of many of his fellow aviators that came in behind. I have never liked McCain, either professionally, militarily, politically, or personally. I just never did care for him. And it's really nothing personal. that we had at one time. It became personal. One day there was a hearing here in Washington on the Korean prisoners of war missing in action by the Senate POW committee. McCain came into the Hart Senate office building from his office about the same time I came in from the outside. And we kind of come together, and I said, "Hello, John." He turned around and looked at me. He says, "I don't like what you said about my wife." I've never met his wife. I didn't know his wife. I couldn't even tell you her name, even today. I said, "Well, what did I say about your wife, John? I don't remember saying anything." And he said, "Oh, forget it." And I said, "No, I want to know. You said I said something about your wife. I want to know what it is you're accusing me of." And he wouldn't answer me. I said, "John, you're a liar." And we were within 4-5 feet of each other. And he turned, and it turned as red as the bars in the United States flag. From his neck up, you could just see the red come up. And I said, "John, I said you were a goddamn liar." It was plenty loud. He heard it because he was only another few steps away from me. He said nothing and continued to walk away. John has no courage of any kind. I wouldn't allow someone, even though if I were a senator and a taxpayer come in and call me a liar, I would stop and get it settled right there. And in his case, all he had to do is say, "I'm sorry, Hopper, I made a mistake." That's all. But he didn't have nerve or the courage. No, McCain is not my senator. I have no respect for him personally or professionally. John McCain doesn't have nerves enough to do anything. He would do whatever money paid him to do from the voters. That's all. He has no personal courage whatsoever. John McCain, when he was on the Senate POWMI committee, was not loyal to our POWs. Every time a witness appeared that was on our side, to include family members, he would pressure them. McCain made a special effort, especially on the ladies, to criticize them, speak harshly, and get them to crying. He wanted to break down the family members and break their spirit so that they would not come out and appear good at the hearing. So I have no confidence in John McCain. It would be the biggest mistake this country could make to ever put that man in the White House. And I'm not a Republican anymore. I was at one time, but if I were, if the Republicans nominated John McCain, they would lose 2 of their members.